Hello everyone, Instructor V. So I want to discuss the essay that you were assigned to read for today. It's by Eve Lee. It's called Chris McCandless, His Supporters and Critics, and it starts on page 95. We just finished discussing what the structure of an argumentative essay looks like and the difference between an informative structure and a synthesis structure. This essay that you're reading for today has a synthesis structure. It presents the continuum of opinion regarding Chris McCandless' not well prepared journey into the wilderness and unfortunately his death. Let's look at the opening paragraph. It begins, Chris McCandless's journey to Alaska has been a controversial topic ever since the writer Jon Krakauer first reported on it in the Outside magazine in 1993. This sentence here is the attention grabber sentence, is to let you know, hey, something happened and we should all know about it. Continuing on with the paragraph, people have differing opinions about Chris McCandless and his adventure. So this sentence here is the author, Eve Lee, signaling to you that this is a controversial topic and that people hold different opinions regarding said topic. While Krakauer, a defender of McCandless, believes that he was just a determined adventurer, critics, such as Terry Tomlin, a journalist, believe that McCandless was an overeager and foolish man. So here, Eve Lee, the author, is presenting you, the reader, with the continuum of opinion regarding this person's adventures. They're using a comparison and contrast writing modality in order to communicate their argument. Krakauer seems to respect McCandless's actions, comparing him to a monk and stating, quote, "One is moved by his courage, his reckless innocence, and the urgency of his desire," end quote. McCandless's critics argue that McCandless was a, quote, kook, end quote, and that he, quote, had already gone over the edge and just happened to hit bottom in Alaska, end quote. Although both sides disagree on many points, they acknowledge that Chris McCandless was an intelligent man and that his solitary journey to Alaska intentionally lacked thorough plans and that he did not go to Alaska to commit suicide. So the rest of the paragraph begins with part of the continuum of opinion. It lists the other part of the continuum of opinion, so the two critics and their opinions. And then it ends with Eve Lee's thesis. Now, she doesn't have a three-part thesis, which is imperative for academic writing in Comp 1, which is something that you need to do for your own papers. But she does provide you with a thesis so that you will know a little bit about how her essay will continue. So if we turn the page and look at her first body paragraph, critics and supporters alike agree that McCandless was deliberately journeying with minimal supplies, although they do not agree with that decision. So the author, Eve Lee, tells you that all critics agree that he was reckless and that he did not bring enough supplies to go on his journey to Alaska. McCandless's critics do not understand or support his decision to journey without proper equipment and backup plans. Terry Tomlin, for example, the outdoor and fitness editor of the St. Petersburg Times, wonders why McCandless didn't use the $24,000 his parents had given him for college to get, quote, the best outdoor great money could buy, end quote. In addition, he argues, had McCandless brought a map, he would have seen there was an avenue escape within a day's walk. Had he told a friend or relative where he was going and when he planned to return, he might have been rescued. Critics deem McCandless's actions to be arrogant, and they believe that he was lucky to survive for as long as he did. This is evident when Krakauer states that, by design, McCandless came into the country with insufficient provisions, and he lacked certain pieces of equipment deemed essential. Krakauer even cites a critic who thinks McCandless was purposely ill-prepared. So in the first body paragraph, Eve Lee, the author, is stating where all the critics agree, and as you move through the essay, you will see where Eve Lee presents evidence on how they disagree. Krakauer, on the other hand, seems able to relate and to understand that McCandless's need to forsake everyone and everything during his great experiment in the wild. He suggests his ability to empathize with McCandless may be because he had problems with his father, as McCandless did. Krakauer seems to see himself mirrored in McCandless. Quote, "We had a similar intensity, a similar heedlessness, a similar agitation of the soul," end quote. He understands that McCandless thought if he got down to the basics, like Thoreau, he could fix all that was wrong with his life. So Eve Lee discussed Krakauer's view on McCandless and provides evidence for Krakauer's opinion of McCandless's journey. In the next body paragraph, while critics assume that McCandless's lack of planning was ignorance, arrogance, or carelessness, Krakauer argues that McCandless knew precisely what was at stake. According to him, McCandless, in his fashion, merely took risk-taking to its logical extreme. Because he thinks McCandless just wanted to see how far he could push himself while trying his best to come out unscathed. Krakauer is convinced that McCandless did not intend to kill himself. He claims McCandless's death was unplanned and that it was a terrible accident. Tomlin agrees. He interprets McCandless's foraging for wild plants as evidence that he was fighting for his life. So here, E. Lee presents Krakauer's evidence. She compares it to Tomlin and says that Tomlin agrees. In the next body paragraph, you're going to see Eve Lee start to introduce Tomlin's opinion and how Tomlin disagrees with Krakauer. Nevertheless, the two sides disagree on the cause of McCandless's death. Tomlin believes the desperation and panic of starving, coupled with eating the wrong seeds, led to McCandless's death. He explains it is that critical moment that panic rears its ugly head. Give in to it, you die. Resist, you live. Krakauer believes that McCandless did not eat naturally poisonous seeds. Instead, he argues McCandless made an error and put non-toxic wild potato seeds in damp plastic bag, causing them to rot and making them poisonous and fatal. So in this paragraph, Eve Lee has introduced Tomlin's opinion and not only compared but also contrasted Tomlin with Krakauer. In the closing paragraph, I want you to look for how does Eve Lee come to a conclusion? What comparisons and contrasts does she still continue to make between Krakauer and Tomlin? And does a resolution present itself?